Here we go. Hey there, folks. Hopefully everything's good to go and we are live. If my signal sucks, somebody in the comments let me know. Apparently data has been in and out a little bit here. Me and Kyle were trying to figure it out right before we got off and going here, whether it was him or me or both of us. And it very well may be both of us just having signal issues tonight. So if that's the case, let us know. But welcome back to the Renegade Butcher Show. We decided to have Kyle back here tonight. We're going to talk a little bit more about just, from a small processor perspective, slaughter and some of the challenges that are involved in that. Appreciate everybody who is tuned in if you are listening in. And if so, like I said, give me some feedback. Let me know how my signal is here. I did decide to start a new segment to the show, and that's going to be part of my other social media stuff throughout the web. And we're going to be calling it the Season for Freedom season, or series season for series. Yeah, that's what we're going to call it. But anyways, so I want to feature weekly a different seasoning because they're so common and we use so many different ones. We see so many of them. I want to feature a different one every week and do an actual kind of fleshed out video on a little bit of history and uses for it. So I figured that you got to start with the basics. So we started with salt. So I'm going to play that video here, premiere it. It is already up on the TikTok if you are over there, but otherwise it's going to be firing up here on YouTube and everywhere else. And you can go from there. So let me see if I can pull that up real quick. We're going to get that out of the way, and then we're going to bring Kyle on, and we'll have us a little chat. Let's see here. Where is that file? And here we go. Salt. The mineral has been prized for its flavor and health benefits for thousands of years. It's been controversial in both modern times and in history. In this video, we're going to explore the history, the science, different varieties, and culinary uses of salt, and have some fun along the way. Salt has been used since ancient times. In fact, the word salary comes from the Latin word salarium, which means payment in salt. This is where the modern term of someone being worth their salt originates. Salt was used as a currency in many ancient cultures, and it was used to preserve food before refrigeration was invented. It was so valuable that conflicts have erupted over it in the past. Gandhi's famous March to the Sea was even a popularized act of rebellion, claiming that access to the mineral was a human right. Common salt is a chemical compound made up of sodium and chlorine. It's an essential nutrient that our bodies need to function properly. Sodium helps regulate the balance of fluids in our body, and it's also important for our nerve and muscle function. Even though overconsumption can cause harm, without enough sodium in our diets, we can actually face severe health consequences, including death. There are many different types of salt that are mined or extracted from all over the world. Some of the most popular varieties include sea salt, rock salt, kosher salt, and Himalayan pink salt. Each salt has a unique flavor and texture and different applications culinarily. Salt is an absolute staple in the culinary world. It is used to enhance the flavor of food and to bring out the natural sweetness of ingredients. It's also used as a preservative, and it can be used as part of a cure for meat and fish. Flaky salts, like this smoked flaky salt right here, or this smoked Malden salt, they impart kind of a really cool crunch as a finish on a dish. But we've also got this pink Himalayan sea salt right here. We've got kosher salt. Lots of different textures, types, flavors, and experiences that can be had with salt. But hey, salt can be fun too. You ever heard of slab salt? It's a slab of salt that you use for, a cooking service. You could impart some unique flavor to a food. It's a cool way to impress your guests. You basically slap some meat, fish, veggies, whatever on it, and you roast it on that slab of salt. And hey, let's not forget about salt's role in the cocktail world. A margarita just wouldn't be the same without a salt-rimmed glass. There's not time in this video to cover all of the types, uses, or controversies over salt. But you can always ask me questions or tell us your perspective. So whether you use it to cook or cure or in your cocktail glass, salt truly is a wonderful seasoning. All right, cool. Well, hey, That was the first time. Threw that together, and there it is. So if you have any suggestions on the next season to cover next week, be sure to drop them in the comments. Find me on Telegram, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, whatever you want to do. And we'll jump onto something else. And maybe I'll actually do a wide format video for the next one. But I'm kind of focusing on shorts like YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. And that tall format does best on mobile devices. So, kind of diversify it a little bit here and there. With that said, I think we're going to bring Kyle back on and let's have a little chat. If you guys have any questions, comments, or anything to throw towards him or me, be sure to throw them over in the comments, and we'll go ahead and throw them up there. If you really want your question answered, do your first couple in caps. That way I can star that and come back to it, assuming we get enough comments to actually make it worth coming back to. All right, folks. And with that, here's Kyle. Hey there, man. How's my audio doing? Still good?
We're back.
We're back.
We're good.
Welcome back.
We're not leaving till the cops come.
Right? This time. Well, hey, I parked in a different parking lot. That might be why my data's a little shittier, but so far, so good.
Yeah, we're good.
I parked in the safe spot. I'm allowed to be here.
Good.
Oh, shit. Oh, what you been up to? So you've been killing shit?
It's been a hell of a week, and it's only Tuesday.
Oh, my. I might have lost you already. There we go. There he is. You
lost me already? All right.
Maybe. There you are. Hey,
no,
what you been up to? Killing shit?
Yeah, the trials and tribulations of slaughtering in New Hampshire. It's been negative temperatures every night. So we had beef come in Monday. Tractor wouldn't start. All my hoses were frozen. It's been a heck of a week.
Well, it's kind of a
we got it
double-edged
done.
sword. All of us down here down south, we kind of lament the fact that we don't get cold weather to just hang animals outside. We have to have a walk-in cooler. But the flip side of that is you also have to deal with a bunch of shit that gets cold and breaks everything and makes it miserable.
It's crazy. We have decent infrastructure, but it's also not like I don't have a heating and cooling system in there yet. We've got some ACs and stuff for the summertime, but in the wintertime, I have a small little electric heater. But did I lose you already? This is going to be a great podcast. No? Maybe? This new spot's great. Well,
Hey, I'm back. I'm here. If I drop out for some reason and
oh no, you dropped out for some reason. I don't know what to do. Well, it looks like I'm just live on here.
Well, hey, I think I'm back. Dude, I
Oh, hey.
appreciate you for hanging out. And geez, I moved. I decided to reconnect to a different Wi-Fi, so hopefully it's a little bit better there. Hey, well, look at
All
that.
right, perfect.
Rachel Brown jumped in there. It says, yeah, don't get kicked out of the park, right? No, I did not get Starlink. I did not get Starlink, Rachel. I'm still out at the park. And yes, she says, hey, Kyle. And yeah, sometimes
Hi.
you can. So, Rachel, I know you missed out on a lot of. She has been a regular, pay attention to a lot of these podcasts, but I know you haven't seen things lately too much. Kyle popped into the Telegram group probably about a month ago now, and he was on the podcast 2 weeks ago. So we decided to bring him back. And I know you were talking while I was gone, but for people who don't know, tell us quick about yourself, who the heck you are, and what you got going on.
My name is Kyle Peralt. I own a small custom process facility in Effingham, New Hampshire. We do primarily beef, but we also do pork. And if you're a really nice person, every now and then I'll do a goat or sheep.
Apparently, if you're a really, really nice person, because he really doesn't like doing those.
I hate them. I absolutely hate them. But yeah, no. So I run like I said, work solo and run this shop. And then we also have a small farm where we raise pigs and beef. So that's
So
a
you
little
keep
about
pretty
me.
busy.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we're
Lord.
currently going through snowpocalypse, and I'm done with it.
Yeah. You guys are getting buried up there, and it's just constant.
We got another 9 inches today, and that
and it's in
fun.
the mid 80s here now for highs. So,
yeah, that's so upsetting. That's so upsetting.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it great? Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Every single day I see y'all up north posting your temps, and I was like, God, I don't even want to say anything, but I'm going to because I'm a dick.
Right, of course. Yeah, no, it's interesting for sure. But I was thinking about it.
It definitely makes things difficult, but there's not much you can do. You know, it's half the year there.
No,
you know,
it's sometimes more than half the year. Like, some years we'll have snow till April, easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
I don't miss that at all.
No, I'm sure.
Not even a bit. No. Like, you would think after a while you'd start to miss just seeing it. No, not a bit. Not a bit.
I'm done.
Too many years of shoveling the shit. Nope. If I never see another snowflake in my life, I'm happy.
And of course, my daughter's 4, so we'll be in the truck and she'll be looking at something. She's like, "Dada, look at the snow. It's beautiful." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're not plowing it." That's
right. Oh, he's in New Hampshire, Rachel. And if you had access to the chat, what happened? Did you get kicked off of Telegram? You should still be in the group. If you're not, request again. I'll add you, obviously. But anyway.
It's Josh going all willy-nilly, taking all the accounts off.
That's me. I've just been taking everybody out. Unless you deactivated your account and I happened to remove it then, but I think I would have noticed if it was yours. But anyway, you wanted to talk about comparing slaughter methods. And I think that's cool as shit because so many people either come from the background of just doing a couple at home, which is pretty close to what we do.
Right.
Or
they
come from a background where it's commercial, it's all bolt gun, it's all, basically just an assembly line. And there are differences. So, and there's obviously a lot
for sure.
of
and I was thinking
can go vary when it comes to doing it on a small scale.
And I was even thinking about it in the aspect as well as I would say I don't do as much mobile stuff anymore. The majority of my stuff is now in-house. We have a decent infrastructure and we're working to build more infrastructure to the point of where it's like everything's set up for me to do everything by myself as easy as possible. Where I know you're still doing a lot more of you're going to people's, because of the education stuff, you're going to people's location and kind of
it definitely
putting it together
takes a lot of
there.
questions. It takes a lot of questions out of the equation when you know exactly where your equipment is, what's going on with it, how it works, exactly where it's going to be. and you don't have to worry about setting it up, taking
Right.
it down, cleaning it up, packing it out. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. If you're going to
Exactly.
somebody's place, especially if you're relying on them to have equipment like a tractor available, you don't always know what you're getting into. You've got to learn to think on your feet for sure. But the one thing about that is that builds a skill set to where when your shit does break, when you are dealing with your stuff,
Right.
you at least have a way to, make it work. It don't rely 100% on your equipment, but it sure is nice when you don't have to guess. You don't have to drag the shit out and set it up and take it down and take it back with you.
That's what I was right. And it's like that's what I dealt with yesterday. Tractor wasn't going, water wasn't going. I'm like, all right, we're gonna figure it out. I'm very lucky that my neighbors across the street own an excavation company, so went and knocked on their door in the morning. They're also customers. They just put a half. They just put a half of my beef in their freezer. So they were like, "It will be right over with a Bobcat. What are you talking about?"
Right.
So we were able to get it done and get it going. But it's
I've had multiple customers that were in situations
even
like
the
that where one of the first things I'll ask them is, do you have a tractor or something with a loader that you're able to use to hang a beef, if you're going to go through this process? And a lot of them will be like, no. I mean, we just got started out. This is our first one. We don't really have a tractor. And I go, do you have a neighbor that has a tractor that you could borrow? And they go,
yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, the guy that sold us the cow and he's getting half this beef. He's got a tractor. You should probably ask him.
Call him.
And usually he's like, yeah, I'll let you use a tractor. I'm getting half the cow, but people don't think that times, they just go, oh, I don't know what I'll do. We don't have one.
And
you don't have to have the tractor except for while the beef's hanging from it. The rest of the time, I don't care who owns it.
Exactly. It just needs to be there this day at this time. Right. Like that is when that needs to happen.
And when you're out in a rural area and you know your neighbors, most of the time it's not that hard unless you're that asshole that nobody can stand, which that might be me.
Right.
Most of the time some neighbor is willing to help you out for an afternoon.
For sure. But that's the big, and it doesn't, I mean, I'm building the infrastructure now to where I won't have to have a tractor, which will be amazing.
Right.
Because
it makes life so much easier if you don't have to worry about it.
So much easier. And it's like, I'll obviously still use the tractor to get it on the platform and everything and do that. But it's hanging out under that bucket is not fun, especially when you're doing it multiple times a week.
You're burning fuel too, because you're going to have to fire that thing up. Every time you start it up, you're burning twice as much fuel as if you let it run. So,
right.
Yep.
But,
I know we were talking about that in private a little bit. I know we've both had some hairy experiences being underneath of a tractor bucket with beef hanging from it. That wasn't a situation we like to be in.
No, you never want to be in that situation. I apologize.
No, what was the worst one for you?
Into my lap.
Yeah, what was the worst one for you? Did you ever have to change your underpants afterwards, or?
No, I mean it's definitely been scary for sure. I had a beef. It was probably only about 650 hang, but it's still 650 hang.
Still a lot of weight.
Right, and it was the hook. I have a spreader bar that goes on the tractor bucket, which is We'll get into that. We'll get into that later. It's a lifesaver. It is makes life so much easier. But the hooks I had on it weren't wide enough to actually go into the bucket. So they were just kind of set on the bucket.
Okay, I follow you.
And someone did, and like something went up.
If that bucket moves just right. Yeah. Yep.
And just one side came off.
That's all it takes.
And it was like, I hate all of this. It's awful. I've had some other just annoying ones. I think I might have even sent this to the group, or it might have been before. One of my customers breeds lowline Angus, which if you don't know it, whoever's listening it's essentially a smaller Angus. They hang at about
shorter body,
450. Yeah. Right. Yep. So it's just more crazy in a tiny, tiny frame. But I have a skinning cradle that I do all my skinning on. And it was another one of days like today where it's snowing, it's gross, it's just not fun. So I finally get the thing. And actually, this this story is even worse than I remember. Tractor that I was about a second and a half away from taking the shot. Tractor ran dry, so I had to bleed the tractor, do this, that, and the other thing. The cow's screaming at me in the corral right behind me. I'm like, you just wait. All this anger's going somewhere. Like,
right.
It was a whole ordeal. Finally get it over to the shop, get it on the cradle. And I'm like, I get the back legs off and I'm honing my knife, and that whole thing just sinks right into the cradle.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are we doing here? So then I'm lifting, and the back legs are already off, so I can't use them to grab it.
Hold of. Yeah.
Had to skin out the back legs, get the tendons going. Then it gets stuck in the cradle, so I'm sitting there. It was a shit show.
You gotta try to maneuver one leg out at a time because you can't put it on a regular.
No. The situations that you get into in this line of work are nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you there's not purpose-built shit for this when it comes to like small scale and mobile. There's not purpose-built shit to do beef at a small scale unless you buy full-scale commercial shit, and most people cannot afford that. So well, so when it comes to the beef side though, hanging from a tractor, hanging from a loader bucket, what I like to do, because I deal with the same crap with the hooks and everything. I will never hook on the edge of the bucket because I have to deal with whatever Joe Blow that I'm working with. And even if it's a guy I know, I don't trust that dude enough to not tilt that bucket or lean on it wrong while he's watching TikTok on his phone, sitting in that tractor while I'm skinning a cow, to not drop the motherfucker on my head. So, I have a big ass, like heavy link log chain, like big ass loading chain. And I will wrap both ends of that around the bucket. So I have a slack, basically a loop of chain hanging across the front. And then I have stainless steel hooks, and I hook those in the links. I make sure that you have chain big enough that your big ass links will fit in through there. But then the nice thing about that is when I'm rigging it up, because there's, when you have that tractor bucket down, whoever's lining you up, they're not going to be exactly perfect, but you can adjust by those links and basically get that cow hanging even, because you know how much of a bitch it is to get that thing skinned and split straight if it's not hanging straight. If it's hanging a little off, it's pain in the ass. So I do everything I can to get it hooked up straight. Now I will say that's been mostly foolproof, and I have never had one slip out of the chain before if the chain was rigged up right. I have had one of my stainless steel hooks snap on me before. So now, anytime I'm looking at something that I'm like, that's going to hang over 500, I double hook on each leg. I will have 4 hooks. I will have 2, just to be sure. Even if one isn't really holding weight, it's a backup in case one snaps. Because I was underneath that thing, skinned down to the neck when it happened. Outside, in somebody's backyard, and it's dangling by 1 foot. And I'm like, okay, I know that hook it's hanging from is rated to hold like probably a third of what it's holding right now.
Right.
And it's not a new hook. It's been used before. So clock's a ticking, So I'm like, do I just try to skin it and gut it really quick and do a messy job of this and not get it split right? Or what do I do? And in the end, we ended up they had a kiddie pool that we washed off really well that was getting ready to get thrown away, a big plastic like kids pool. And we laid the carcass back down in the kids pool, got some more hooks out, re-rigged it clean, hooked it back up, hoisted it, washed everything down, and went back to work. And it was a big pain in the ass. We made it work.
It's the
that's
worst.
The other thing. You gotta be ready. You gotta be ready for the weirdest shit to go on, because it's Murphy's Law. It's gonna happen.
Oh, absolutely. The way I think about it is like it takes me about an hour. If I'm like taking my time or things are going on, like it takes me about an hour and a half to get a beef done and in the cooler.
Right.
In that hour and a half, this is what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not on my phone. I'm not doing anything. I am just doing this beef or doing this pig, because when you do like an overlook map of the situation, it's like, all right, I have this animal that weighs hundreds, if not 1,000 pounds, hanging from a tractor that could break, could not break with knives. Like you are in like the worst scenarios ever, and it's your job. Like
I'm alone. I am standing underneath of heavy equipment with a large heavy payload over top of me. I have a bunch of dangerous equipment around me. If anything breaks, I'm probably dead. And if I don't get this done in a timely manner, something goes wrong and somebody gets sick, and it's my fault.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot on you.
And it's overtime. Overtime, you figure it out, and over time, you learn to. My old shop teacher used to say calculated risk. It's like, yes, it's a risk, but if you've done it enough and you know what you're doing, it's a calculated risk you can take. Exactly. So where it's at the point now where it's like, I know all the different sounds my tractor makes, or where it's like you'll hear it settle, and you all of a sudden turn into a ninja for a half a second, where it's like, I guess I'm going to sprint over here real quick so I don't die. And it's like, no, it's just settling. But it's like, I'd rather be tensed up enough to move.
Yeah.
But
if I was doing it by myself with a tractor, I would, especially regularly with my own shit, I would probably set up a couple of poles, like bracer poles that I could put underneath the loader just in case it did come down, just because I don't trust it enough. You know,
I don't trust it. What I usually do is I'll get it to the point where it's partially spun out and hanging freely, and I'll take the cradle. The cradle I have is 2-inch steel pipe, like welded together, so it's pretty sturdy, heavy as hell, and I'll just stand that up next to the carcass, so that stays there until basically I'm done. Like if it's a big carcass and I know it's swinging, like I'll move it out of the way so I'm not hitting it, but like it stays underneath the bucket to where if I need to like dive, it'll give me like a second.
It'll give you the time you need to move. Right. Yeah. When that one slipped on me, I tell you what, I was shocked. My old martial arts shit kicked back in, but I was impressed that not only did I tuck and roll, I managed to remember to throw the knife before I tucked and rolled the knife into me. But yeah, I tell you what, when you have that going on, it'll wake you up. You will.
It sure does.
You will be living in the present as long as you are still living.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So what about?
So we've talked about
when it comes to the knockout. When it comes to actually putting them down, I'm sure you've had it go not so good before a couple times.
Oh yeah, it's not great. I mean,
no, it's never great.
Nothing you want to see It's nothing you want to see happen. It sucks every time. I feel awful
every time,
every single time.
Yeah,
right. The whole time you're going through it, it's like
it's important for people, especially if you've got amateurs who are trying to learn this or they want to do it at home. I feel it's important to set the expectation that you're probably not going to get the perfect first shot every time on your first couple of animals. No. And if you do, please don't assume that's going to happen that easy every time, because
I will say 100% it's going to happen. It will happen to you. If you do it long enough,
it will happen to you eventually. If it doesn't happen in the first 10 animals, I don't even know who you are.
Right. Like you did something else that you really can't tell anyone about before you started killing animals. Like that's what you did before this.
Start working on
exactly. No, yeah, it's tough. I mean, especially when I first started like on my own side business, I was still working at a USDA facility, so I wasn't doing any of the knock-in. But I honestly, when I went off on my own at first, I had no business doing as much as I was doing. Like I went in, I was learning on the go. Like I was trying. This is an argument I get in with everyone, and we've had this conversation as well. What you use for the knock.
Oh yeah.
I went the first pig through the shop, like I did solo through the shop. I went in with a 22 long rifle, and I had to shoot that thing 4 times, and it was awful. I felt awful. And you also have the added
one of the hardest things, honestly, to put down. It's just you have to be exactly damn freaking perfect with the exact right angle to get it right.
Exactly. And it's like it with the added thing of you have the customer there. And luckily it was a
and if
friend
the
who I
customer
was
is
doing
there
it for.
too, and it's their animal, and a lot of times, especially with pigs, it's really easy
Oh.
to get attached to pigs, so it's extra traumatic. And pigs are extra dramatic.
Oh, it is the worst sound on the planet that hits your soul. Like it is awful.
Yeah. Yep.
And so after that, I went out and bought a single shot 410, and I used 410 for a long time. But even with that, I had a stunted Belty. It was the customer. It was a 4-year-old Belty. I think it hung pretty decent, like 650, but it was like 3/4 the size, like height wise. And this thing broke through every fence they had, broke out of every pen they had, and they were like, this thing needs to be gone. And I'm standing, like, it wouldn't let me get close enough to do like a right to the noggin shot. So I was taking, it was probably only like an 8-foot distance. Like it wasn't far, but that thing moved. Or actually, no, the first shot nailed it, drilled it right here, and it dropped. And we're like, okay, good. And the thing stood up and stared at me like, what are you doing? And it was a winter day. You could see the steam coming out. And then, of course, as you like, trying to get a shot off on an animal with a bullet already in its head is not exactly the easiest thing to do.
No, because it's not like you're going to walk right past up and say hi.
No, and that second shot stunned it. And again, it was within under like a 16th of an inch. Like it's crazy. And it was stunned enough on the second one that I could get in there and just put it right to the noggin and be like, we're done with this. And we spun it out. And it was a grouping that was this big of 410 slugs. And it's like,
I had a similar with a 410. I had a customer that I've helped them with a couple of different beef, and they had a 2.5-year-old Brangus. There was some Brahmin in there. I don't know if it was 50-50, but it had some Brahmin in there. But Brangus, and he was one that liked to hop some fences, but was mostly pretty chill. You know, one of those. I'm within 2 foot. He's eating. I know exactly where this shot needs to go. I know exactly where to put it. 410 to the head within a foot. They had it on video. It literally just it didn't even react to the sound. It just sort of stepped back and started walking away. Like, what the hell? And they're sitting there like, what's going on? I was like, oh shit. So I drop it, grab the 30-06 because I already know what's about to happen, you know?
Right.
Proceed to, the next 30 minutes of walking around the pasture, dumping 30-06 rounds into this thing's skull at 20-30 yards. And one of their friends, because they had people who came over to help out or learn.
Of course, right.
So, of course, one of them's a big game hunter, and I go to Africa and I shoot off. So he has to go grab his gun and come help because he feels like he needs to, because obviously, the butcher's got 4 rounds in this cow and it doesn't die. Doesn't matter. He's got 2 rounds of 30-06 in its head. Finally, I end up putting one down. I walk up and dump another one into its head on the ground. At this point, it has like 8 rounds, maybe. My rifle, I'm covered in blood spray because I just shot a cow in the skull with 30-06 at point blank range.
Right.
You're like, we don't know what's going on. And so the guy's wife even asked me, she goes, do you think it even had a brain? Like, it didn't seem to react because it was getting a shot. You could see the impact. You could see it, like, it physically react to the shot because it hit it so hard it moved it. But it was not even reacting to the sound. It would just sort of walk around. Like, I think the first shot basically just completely destroyed the frontal cortex. And it was just in, like, instinctive mode. Like, it had no idea. It didn't feel, didn't know. It was just walking around because it wasn't running. It wasn't panicked. Nothing. No. And none of the meat cut like stressed me. It was the weirdest thing ever. So she goes, do you think it even has a brain? I'm like, not now. So we got the head off. Anymore. I went ahead and skinned it open. And you could tell the 410 versus the 30-06. The first shot was dead on in the brain case. Exactly where you want it to be, dead on. And every other round you could see, its head was like Swiss cheese. You could have basically made a jigsaw puzzle out of this thing's skull by the time it was done. And it just kept walking around. And I mean, we just kind of determined it was too stupid to die. It just didn't know it was dead. I don't know,
And like, if you've never experienced it, it's literally the worst feeling on the planet.
It
Your
really
heart's
is.
going
You
1,000
feel like
miles a
you
minute. You
completely
feel
fail.
awful.
Oh my gosh!
It's like, this is my
feel
one
completely
job. This is
responsible
my
for
one
this.
job to kill this thing.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
so that's
then
why
there's other
I've switched. So
there's other times it's 5 cows in a row, 22 LR, walk up, pop, pop, done. You got them in the cooler, and it's not even a thing. 90% of the time, it's not a problem. But when it is a problem, it's a dramatic problem.
Right. It is the biggest problem on the planet.
It never goes kind of bad. When it goes bad, it goes all the bad.
No, but so I've switched now to, I bought a Taurus Judge. So that is 45 long colt. And then you can also use 410. But I've had really good luck with it. And it's, if I've got to take a really long shot, I'm probably not going to take it. I'd rather not.
No, I avoid long shots.
I am not a marksman.
I'm a pretty good shot within a reasonable distance. I'm a pretty accurate shot, but ballistically, that doesn't matter. When it comes to the actual knockout, when it comes to what you're trying to do from a slaughter perspective, it doesn't really matter. You're not trying to
this
deer. I am not shooting a deer. I am trying to knock an animal unconscious, if not kill it in one shot with damage to the brain and then immediately bleed it. I'm not trying to shoot something and then track it down 3 hours later after it bled out in the opons.
No.
That's not. This is not
killing it here.
Exactly. It needs to go down right now where I want it, and I can access it, and I can control the situation and get it bled immediately. So, it's. I've got similar to the Judge. I've got the Rossi, their sister company, makes the Circuit Judge, which is the rifle version. It's still the 5-shot cylinder, but it's exactly like the Taurus Judge.
Really?
45 long colt. I looked forever for it. One of my customers has an FFL, and he did some hunting and found one for me. But they're not super easy to find. They're like super back ordered too. But it's cool. It's got like the 18-inch barrel. I happen to get one that has synthetic stock. They've got some that are wood stock. They look like an old school like revolver rifle, but they're chambered the same way. 410 and 45 long colt. So I've got one of those, but I use that. I'd still use 22 long rifle most of the time if I can walk up. If they've got a squeeze gate, something like that, I just walk up and pop them. But if it's an older bull or it's a thicker headed cow, there's Brahmin involved anywhere. It's an older pig, something that I think that I might have a penetration issue. I just 45 or the 410 slug because it's big and heavy, and I don't want to blow a hole through the other side. I want all that to end up inside the skull. That's what I'm shooting for. Massive.
And that's what's so nice about the 45 long colt. I've got a mason jar in the shop just full of rounds, and half of them don't even look like they've been through anything. Half of them are still solid lead. It's like, and it's, I'll find them that literally,
when I've had to resort to, the only reason I bring out the 30-06 is if I end up in a hairy situation, cow gets loose, there's a bull that just won't come in, it's got to get slaughtered at a distance, I'll use the 30-06. I learned the hard way, do temple to temple across the head, don't go do straight on shot. You'll end up having popped guts to deal with when you're done. It will knock the cow down. But I've also found out the hard way, I'm more likely to have to do a second shot with a 30-06, even if my first shot was insanely accurate, than I would otherwise, than even with a 22. Because that 22 is going to penetrate and bounce around and do a bunch of damage, immediate knockout. 30-06, it punches a hole in, punches a hole out. It's so powerful, it doesn't actually have time to expand. So it's just poking a hole. It's not actually doing serious damage. So, it's weird. It's ballistically bizarre that a 22 can actually have more knockdown than a 30-06, but its ballistics is weird. It's totally situational. The amount of powder that you have and the size of the caliber does not necessarily equate a better slaughter round.
No, and I'm at the point now where I don't even have the conversation with people anymore because you do your thing, I do mine. I would much
do what
rather
works for you. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And everybody's confident with different things. They have different situations. Maybe they have different styles of doing it, and they're faced with different different, challenges than necessarily I would be, I mean, I did,
Right. You're
I came from the
lucky.
background before I ever branched out into doing this stuff. I was working in a commercial kill floor where we were in a concrete and steel building, but we did use a
Right.
22 mag. That was the biggest thing we ever wanted to use, because if a round gets loose bouncing around, which
Oh,
happened a
yeah.
couple
You don't want
times
that.
when I wasn't there, thank fuck. But that's a little bit scary. That'll make your asshole pucker. You hear a round bouncing around inside the room you're in. Last thing you want is it to be something bigger than a 22. Even that's not good. So,
well, that's
but
the
I
base
was
thing.
consistently shooting 7 to 40 animals a day in the face with a 22 mag. So it's not hard for me to jump into doing that from the mobile side. That's my first instinct because it's what I'm used to.
Right.
But yeah, no, if I can't get within 3 feet of that animal, there's not a chance in hell I'm trying it with something that small.
No, and
I know people that use exclusively 17 HMR. That's all they'll use for slaughter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
but that's the biggest thing with using a pistol is everyone, like, whatever you're using, like people out there who are thinking about doing this, you still need to remember that it's like yes, you're only maybe a foot and a half away or whatever, but it's still a gun that's going to shoot a projectile that you don't know what's going to happen. So it's like when I do pigs, we have I call it the kill box. It's a probably 10 by 10 box off of my pig pen, but it's also where, like, if I'm putting more pigs in or bringing pigs out, they have to go in there first, like, to section them off. And that's also where all my pig customers drop off, because I have a squeeze gate in there, which is, again, it's just a gate with a horse mat on it that instead of trying to push a pig into somewhere, he can just kind of be slowly walking around. You can slowly walk around, and by the time he realizes that he's already in there, he's in there, and he's not going to put up too much of a fight. But again, you got to remember that it's like, I'm not going to angle. Like, I need to make sure that gun's not angled towards my leg. God forbid that 45 long Colt flies through there, flies through the skull, and all of a sudden I got a bullet in my foot. Like, and I've had to periodically be like, hey, dummy, your foot's under this pig's head. Like, move out of the way.
You have to not only think about where the target is, where's that round going after it goes through, and if something goes wrong and it redirects, where might it go? And let me not have anything of mine anywhere close to that either, or anybody else around you.
Right.
Because that's the other thing. I have seen people so focused on trying to put an animal down in, like, say, a corral, and they're moving around, and I'm over here
all of a sudden they're pointing at a house.
Well, they're pointing. There's somebody else who's, like, observing, standing on the other fucking side of the corral, and they're tunnel visioned on that animal, and they're walking around trying to get their shot, not even thinking about the fact that they're pointing right at a kid hanging on the rail across the way. Like, everybody get the hell out of here and give me the gun, But I also learned, especially from the mobile side of things, because you'll get people who want to be involved. You get people who, and I totally understand it, but they'll have that, I feel like I need to shoot this thing because it's my animal and blah, blah, blah. They feel that they have to take that upon themselves. Yeah, no, not if you're hiring me to come help you. Now, if I've worked with you in the past and I know you, and it's your friends, it's an exception thing, I understand that. That's fine. You graduated, and when you fuck this up, I'll be here to back you up. But no,
if you got my number from someone,
nope, not doing it again, because I've had it too many times. And I'm like, because I get it. If I was that guy, I want to do it myself too. So I my instinct is to be that lenient and just go for it. But anymore, it's like, look, no, not only am I going to not advise you to do that, if that's what you want to do, then you're on your own for the rest of it too. I'm going to pack up and go, because it too many times has it gone bad, and I don't want that to happen to you, the animal, or me. So,
my biggest thing is I've moved to, again, I do primarily beef. When it comes to the fall, I'll do more pigs, but this time of year it's all beef. And just my corral is separate from the shop, so I have to kill in the corral and then bring to the shop,
and then transport.
It's a whole big thing, and it's whatever. So I've moved to now, which I'm going to continue to do even in the summer, is I just do it right in the trailer. I don't even get the animal off the trailer. Like, I'll have them drive out into the field to where There's nothing around. And again, if it goes bad, they're in a trailer. Like, they're not going to go far. Like, it's right there.
Oh, yeah.
And
no, I've done quite a few
it makes life
trailer
so
drops,
much easier.
and it is easier, way easier to drop them in a trailer than it is somebody. You know, you go out somebody's place and they're like, "Yeah, there's a cow," and they point out in an open pasture. What are you trying to do?
Yeah,
we're not going hunting here.
Cool, I'm not killing that right now. Like,
right, putting them in a trailer or a confined area, man, it helps much. I will say, don't put that 45 long colt through like a 10-ply tire though while you're shooting in that trailer.
Right? Yeah,
that's an expensive fuck up.
Yeah. Oh, it sure is. But yeah, so we should probably talk about the other parts of slaughter and not just killing stuff.
Well, we should talk about that. There's more to slaughter than killing stuff. What are you talking about?
I know. I could go on for another hour about killing stuff. Well, not even like in a creepy way, just in like a like informational way.
Details. Absolutely. Well, that's what the whole show's about. But okay, so when it comes to slaughtering at home, though, if somebody is getting into this and say it's their first big animal and they're gearing up for it, they're trying to learn what they can, what would your advice be for them? Like ways to avoid getting into shit? What things should they address now before the time comes?
I think we already kind of got down to it. Like, are we talking like before the shot or after the shot?
Both. Yeah, I mean, before the shot, obviously, have your shit together, set up an enclosed area if you can. If you can get some help from somebody who's actually done it before, great. If not, really pay attention to shot stuff. Yeah,
I think that is the biggest one. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Do not try this on your own off of YouTube alone for a cow. It's not gonna go well. Like, unless you're a savant, like that just all of a sudden picks it up, it's not going to go great.
Right. Even if you understand exactly what you're trying to do and where the shot needs to be, the correct angle, you can conceptualize all of it. Getting that animal to participate in the endeavor and pulling the shot off while being nervous and realizing you're trying to kill this thing in close proximity while it's staring you in the eyes. It's unnerving and it's hard to do until you've done it.
I'm not even talking about just that. I'm talking about the whole process.
Oh, the whole process
is the whole process. even if you got a buddy that works at a grocery store that has decent knife skills, like you just
if he hasn't broken down a beef before, he's still going to be learning a lot.
Absolutely, and it's like I don't say it to gloat, where it's like I can get, if I'm hustling, I can get a 650-pound hang weight beef in the cooler in an hour, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
That's going to be a 5-hour process. If you're just going, well, we're just going to try it ourselves.
If you've never done it and you have not been through the process before, yeah, absolutely. Even if it's a smaller beef, you're looking at 3 or 4 hours for sure. And that's assuming everything goes right and you have everything set up. And most of the time, people at home, well, that's the other thing. I've had to help a lot of folks who their cooling process, their chilling process is, we're talking about breaking this thing down to primals while it hangs and putting them in freezers with temp regulators and old refrigerators in a garage.
Oh,
so you gotta
gives
know
me anxiety
breaking it down hot and stacking that all in there with enough airflow around it that you don't have anything turning while it chills. There's a lot to it. So guidance is huge. And that's part of not only why I do the consultation on site, but I'm hopefully going to be getting into, at some point here, doing more workshops and stuff for people who are serious and want to learn this, because you should want to learn how to do this.
Absolutely.
Don't let us tell you don't do it. You have to hire somebody. But if you have the option of getting somebody with some experience on site, for fuck's sake, do it. Especially with something as big as beef. Yeah.
Right. All right. So
it's worth the cost.
Right. Off of that, what I would say the next biggest thing you need is sharp knives. Buy decent knives and learn how to get them sharp.
The second part's the most important. You said sharp knives. Your second part, how to maintain and sharpen.
How to maintain knives. That is the biggest thing. If you go to try and slaughter a cow, a pig, even a goat or whatever with a dull knife, you're going to want to put yourself in the cooler
And if you don't know how to maintain that knife and sharpen it, your sharp knife's going to be dull really fucking quick. If you're lucky, you won't cut yourself first, but it doesn't take long, especially if you don't know how to use that knife properly. You're going to be hell on that edge. So you're going to have to learn how to maintain. And guess what? The more that you maintain and sharpen that edge, the more you learn how that process works, the more you're going to understand what shit you do that fucks that edge up, and the better you're going to become. Because the better you could probably speak for this, the better you get, the more experience you have at cutting meat, the less you dull your knife.
Oh, for sure.
It's a weird.
Do you remember
thing.
the first time you? Do you remember the first time you touched a pig tooth?
You remember the first time you ground the edge of your blade into the board and had everybody else around you just tense up and look at you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But you don't learn it unless you fuck it up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not good.
Sharp knives. And on that note, don't ever cut on a fucking stainless. That's fine. Go get yourself those nice, clean stainless steel tables. Those are awesome. Don't cut directly on them. Get a fucking cutting board. I don't care if it's a wooden cutting board.
Get a cut board for it. Yeah.
Do not use a glass cutting board. That's not a cutting board. That's a washable countertop.
God. Those are the dumbest things on the planet. I don't understand.
You need a soft surface to cut on, or you just wreck your. That's the reason it's there, is to not destroy your knife's edge when you touch it. Don't grind the edge of the knife into the board.
Worst case scenario, go to Lowe's, look at the discounted countertop section. Just the slide-in countertops. That's when I first started, even before we had this shop, like when I was doing deer for buddies and stuff like that. I bought one of those countertops for cheap. Like I had a chip in the side, so it was discounted. And it was the perfect size to slide in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And it was off to the races.
I'll go to the regular sporting goods store. Yeah. Go to the regular sporting goods store, and you can buy like a 2-foot by 3-foot cutting board where they have like the deer processing shit.
Oh yeah.
And it's usually like $20-$25, but that's fine. It's great to have a cutting board that covers your whole table. That's fine. As long as your cutting with your knife only happens on the board, it doesn't have to cover the whole table. You know what else works really good? Like those fold out heavy duty plastic tables. The ones for like picnic tables outside.
Yes.
Like the
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
You can cut on those. Are great. That's fine. As long as you don't worry about fucking it up, if you don't care about putting nicks on top of it, that's fine. That can be the cutting board. Just don't do it on a stainless steel table, please.
No, you can cut a whole beef on one of those folding tables and a 2x3 foot cutting board. My cut bench is 16 feet long. Do you want to know how much I cut? Like what section I cut on?
You use about 4 to 5 foot of it.
I would honestly say like 3 to 4. Like
one panel
because it's 4 panels.
Yeah, but the rest of it is storage.
It's all
I've got a tub of this over there. I've got
trays and everything.
Yep. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Let me throw that top sirloin over there while I'm working over here on this.
Exactly. Yeah. Knives, a good sawzall is helpful. Yeah. You can do it with a handsaw, but you're going to hate yourself.
Yeah. And I honestly have really taken to the single hand reciprocating saws. I have a rigid cordless I use the shit out of right now, but there's one, I forget the brand now. It's Cobalt. That's Lowe's store brand. That's just a regular plug-in one. That one's great. And the nice thing about those single hands is they're pretty well balanced. They're like using a big, like an oversized electric fillet knife. And the chuck is different than it usually is on most reciprocating saws, to where it's just a piston that goes in and out. It doesn't have as much of that stuff up there to pull meat and fat up in. The head of those, that's the hardest part, is cleaning them up.
It's awful.
So, but on the single hands, it's just like you've got just a little nut that turns to put the blade in, and it's just a piston that comes out of the head.
Perfect.
So it's really easy to clean up. So you do that. I like the Lennox brand blades that Lowe's sells. For some reason, I've not found another one that equates to it. There's an extra sharp metal blade. And if you do all of your knife work with the blade first, with your knife, and just focus on cutting the bone with that, you can almost make it look like you did it with a bandsaw once you know what you're doing.
Diablo pruning blades.
Diablos are nice. For splitting,
been an
they're
absolute
awesome.
Game changer For splitting,
Yeah.
they're fantastic.
For splitting. Now for fine cuts, they're too toothy, but they're great
it's
splitting.
It's the only time I use them now is I split with them. I break my beef into 8s or 6 or 8s, just because one, it's easier for me to handle and it cools faster. And I'll use them during the final breakdown, but it's for like chining the rib or
I use mine for whenever I would typically reach for a regular butcher handsaw because I hate fucking handsaws. Absolutely despise them.
The worst. Yeah.
I used to work with people who would use them constantly for everything. They'd be sweating their ass off, but they wouldn't even break the hide. They'd be cutting feet off with those. They would cut the heads off of things with them all the time. They would just take them and just go to town and sweat. And I was like, what on earth are you doing? I started watching YouTube videos. I was like, we could do this all with a knife.
Oh, yeah.
They make fun of me, too. They were like, why are you out there wasting time cutting off legs with knives? And I was like, you want to race, bitch? I will do it in the same amount of time as you do with that saw. Once you know where you're cutting, it's way cleaner. It's going to age way better. And I won't be drenched in sweat. Man, it is so much less work. But it is something you have to learn skill. You're lost as shit the first couple times. You remember the first time you tried to hawk a cow with a knife?
Oh. See, cows, I got the breaking the legs off fairly quick. Like that, I don't know. For some reason, that one just kind of.
It's a big joint, so everything's right there to see.
Pigs,
Pigs took me a little bit longer
every time.
You go about one bone too far back, and you lose that whole tendon on the hinds.
It's the worst. I wouldn't even be on the right joint half the time. I'd be like, this isn't even right. Like, what? My boss would be laughing at me. I'm like, I don't understand how every time I screw this one up.
If you're doing
you also hinds, don't get the satisfying
when you bend the feet back on the hinds, and then you look at where the skin wrinkles. If you look at the first wrinkle on that joint that's closest to the toes, that's almost always right where it's at.
Yeah, exactly.
Took me a while.
You also don't get the satisfaction of when you finally snap that foot off. If you have someone around who's never seen that before,
oh my god, it's
snap. I don't know why, just wrecks people. Like
it does.
They're just like, what just happened? Just snap his foot off. What do you think just happened? Like
right. My favorite part is when somebody will hear about me and they call me up and I come out to help them. And it's literally either they've seen an ad at a feed store or maybe a referral from a friend, or they found me on Facebook, especially in the early years, me starting out doing this around here.
Oh yeah.
And you hired a guy that says he's going to come to your place and kill your animals for you. You have no idea who the fuck just showed up and shot a cow in your backyard. I can understand people that are obviously a little skeptical. You don't know this guy from Adam. And they're usually trying to feel you out and talk to you as you're going. So I'm talking while I'm working. And it's usually about the time that I roll the cow on its back by myself without help, chalk it up with a couple of chalk blocks, and start taking legs off while I'm talking to them with a knife. And I'm not even looking at my hands. That it changes. They've never, ever in their life seen somebody hawk an animal with a knife and have it just pop off like it's supposed to. Because most people have never been exposed to that. So that's about the moment usually they realize he might know what he's talking about.
I had a customer. He's actually still a customer. He's a good dude, but he grew up in Georgia. So now he's up here and even further north than I am. And he's a good dude. And the first thing he said was, well, I grew up in Georgia. I've been on a farm my whole life. I've never seen a guy slaughter a cow in cowboy boots. And I'm like, well, I'm here. And we were like talking about other stuff. We went through a whole slaughter, talking about family, politics, like the whole gauntlet of stuff. And it was about an hour and 15, hour and a half. Like, and actually that beef needed a second shot. Like that was one that it was, again, from 6 feet away.
Yep.
It just didn't happen, and it was able to go down fairly quick. But even after that, he was talking, and he's like, I've never been able to, like, pin you guys down, like butchers. He's like, I've worked with some who I've been real sketched about, and the meat came back amazing. And I've worked with others who were real personable and seemed like they knew what they were doing. And I got back cuts that didn't make any sense. And I told him, I'm like, So in this past hour and a half, you've seen me shoot this animal, get it bled out, get it scun on your tiny Kubota tractor, which I wish you had told me about before.
Right.
Like you've seen me go through the whole gauntlet of this animal. And the entire time you and me have had intelligent conversations, like conversations where we both have to be present for them. That is the difference. If you are watching
Yep.
someone and they are stone cold silent and really paying attention to what they're doing, they are very new and they are trying to remember what is happening.
It's not muscle memory to them at this point. They may have done it before, but they haven't done this over and over and over and over and over and over again before. Yeah, for sure.
I think the biggest point of information we can give to people who are going to try and do this or like want to experiment with it, no matter how much prep work you put into this, how many times you've done it, like things are going to happen. They're going to happen.
Expect to make mistakes and expect to have things that are completely out of your control go wrong, and be ready to deal with them when they do. Because something's going to break. Something you think is going to work isn't going to.
Right.
All your plans are going to go to hell, and you're going to be left with a big dead animal, and you got to do something about it.
Even small stuff that it's like annoying, but it's also still, you got to take care of it. Like puncturing a stomach or puncturing the intestines. Like all of a sudden now you just have shit all over the inside of this animal. And it's like, now I got to do something. Not knowing to tie the esophagus off while it's still laying on its back. Like that one has moved some people. For sure. Yep. All of a sudden, you forget to do the esophagus, and you get that thing up on the tractor, and it just starts. It's not even vomiting because it's dead, obviously. It just starts funneling out.
Well, there's that certain point where you just have that release. The pressure goes off. It's like you broke the vacuum, and it's.
And guess what? More than likely, you probably punctured the esophagus while you were bleeding it. So now not only is it coming out of the mouth and nose, it's also coming out of the incision in the neck. It's like...
And so it will be one of the worst things you smelled, close to vomit, but potentially worse somehow.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Pretty rough. I would huff shit this close to my face all day long before smelling that.
I'm not going to go that far. I would much rather have that.
But I'm just saying it's rough.
No, it's
rough. It permeates, and you will finally get used to the smell, but everybody else will smell it on you for like a week.
Oh yeah. My wife is not happy on those days.
Bile. Yeah,
and that's weird bile. It's a bile, earthy grass. Ugh. But things like that are
you're right. It's like rotten lawn clippings mixed with vomit.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But no, to like all those people who are out there thinking about doing it, no matter how many times you play this out in your head, there's always something that's going to happen or could happen.
Yeah.
I think I'm just under 100 animals, like solo with me doing it. And it's not everyone, obviously, but it's like, all of a sudden you're not paying attention and you're trying to gut it out, and all of a sudden you just go a little too deep. Poof.
Something happens.
Like stomach's open, and now you're dealing with it on the brisket. It's like
I have had animals, and I can't tell you. I don't even know how many. I only count how many I've done, but I have had beef that I'm literally there in the middle of gutting it, and somehow, miraculously, don't know why, never had it happen before. I put a finger through a stomach in a cow and put it. How I got my finger through, because it's a substantial organ on beef, but it happened. Suddenly I was wearing it.
So
I didn't even have a knife in my hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell? But it was an animal that is kind of bloated. It'd been here for a minute. It's, it's ready to go. It'd been eaten well. There's just certain beef. By the time you get to that gutting, they're like blowing up like a balloon. And oh Lord, they're fun. Then you're trying to like bear hug this thing to pull it up out of the cow to get it out of the way.
Here's a good one. When's the last time you forgot to cut the sternum?
Oh, cut the sternum when you gut it?
Yeah.
Before gutting, you mean? I don't even. I
You
don't at
don't?
all. No,
Really?
I never have.
You
I
pull
hang it.
guts up and over?
Yeah. Well,
Why?
everything up until the diaphragm, and then once you cut the diaphragm, I reach down, I slide on back down to the esophagus, and if it's not ready to pull up, break it free, cut up in behind the heart. Once I grab that heart and pull it up, that and the lungs kind of just all come out. Like the weight's there, all the weight's on the heart. No, but that's how I learned to do it originally. I know you can do it with just the sternum thing, but I've never even bothered with it. Because the thing is, when the breaking the sternum part makes the most sense when you're using a cradle. When primarily you don't use a cradle very often, it doesn't always make sense to take that.
Right. All right. No, I guess
a little bit more
sense.
work. You're right. It is a little bit more work on the gutting side, but it's, from my angle at least, to not have a cow tip on its side if you're not using a cradle. It's more work to split that sternum sometimes than it is to not.
All right. I guess I do get that point for sure.
Yeah.
Next time you got a cradle, try it, because now I've been doing.
Yeah, I've definitely done it with the cradle before, and it makes gutting them super freaking easy.
It's
like I've accidentally gutted them when I wasn't ready before when I split one. Like I had that. You have that early fall.
Oh, because it's now what I do. I still catch myself in the middle of a slot, and I'm doing a beef, if not two a week. Like I still catch myself almost every slaughter doing something different. Like not like completely, but like off of what I did last time.
What'll piss me off the most is if we got a tractor or a hoist or whatever I'm on, and either I raise it up, and I've got everything else situated, because when you raise a beef up for the next level when you're trying to skin it, it's an operation. It's not just an easy up and down like with a deer. Or I have somebody raise the tractor up for me and I forgot to cut the bung.
Yeah.
That pisses me off. When I forget to do that work. So now I'm like, so I'm gonna have to go back up and do that or lower it back down, because you've got to cut it. But now it involves maneuvering a whole fucking animal. Yeah.
I've mentally gone to the point now where I'm like, hey, dummy, take your time.
As soon as the tail comes off.
So hear me out. So now what I've started doing is esophagus right off. Like I skin all the way down to where I can see the top teeth. Like I skin the face all the way down, neck all the way down, pull the esophagus and windpipe out, tie off the esophagus, cut it off right under where I cut it. Yep. Pull tongue right then too. And then I really just take my time and open the entire neck up and make sure I can.
Well, you're laying in the cradle, so it makes sense while you're there. Yeah,
exactly. So get everything cleared out where it is and be able to literally take my hands and push the whole esophagus in if I want to, and windpipe.
Yep.
Then do the same thing, go in the back, do the same thing to the point where I can literally take that whole bung and just push it right into the whole animal. And while I'm there also, I also split the H-bone. That's been a game changer. And the other thing I've been doing, which I don't really understand why I do it, but I really like that I do it, is I keep the skin on the tail and I skin under the back. And I keep it like that until about the chuck. Like I'll skin all the way down to the chuck with the hide still on, instead of sitting there with like your boning knife, like trying to skin around the tail. Because we have a lot of people that keep the tail. You get that hide all the way down.
Here, really common around here. Yeah.
Oh, but
if they don't want it, I do.
Exactly. If you get that hide all the way down to the chuck, and you get probably, if like you think about it, like the first vertebrae off of the actual animal, like into the tail, skin out to about that far, you can walk right up behind that thing and just yank, and it skins the whole tail in a second. But what I really like about it is I'm not fighting the hide the whole time. The hide's
similar
not completely around me. Like the hide's hanging. It's not in my way. That's been really nice. I can see that. So
for me, like most of the time, once I've skinned out around the rumps and I'm breaking down the hind, usually at this point I'm working it while it's hanging, since I'm not doing a cradle. So I've skinned that out. I bring it down. I'll get down around the tail. I'll usually cut the tail so it breaks free, not so it's hanging loose, but I'll cut that first joint. And then I'll usually take my knife and I'll lay it across the backside of the tail and cut just one straight strip all the way down the backside. Once I've done that, then I just free the sides up with a couple of cuts, and then I kind of skin down, like you said, underneath. But I usually only go down to about the sirloins, and I get my hand in there and I'll just yank it all the way down, and either it'll come off completely clean, or you'll just have the hair at the end of the tail on the tip to cut off.
I kind of did it just on it,
but that makes sense. I totally get what you're saying.
I kind of did it just on accident, and then all of a sudden it was like, I'm not fighting this hide the whole time. Like, it's not
sense.
my way.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
interesting.
We need to.
It also probably determines a little bit, or depends on the structure of your actual cradle and how it lays. Because if you have a higher cradle, it's a little easier to get down and do that lower stuff back behind the back. The cradle I was using was basically almost on the floor. So
and I'm not a straight from the cradle to full hang. I do it in stages. So it's like I'm not. And this is another kind of pro tip. Like, if you have the setup, I don't like to bung it while it's fully laying flat, because you have all that pressure. Yeah, you have all that pressure coming at you. So it's like,
as soon as you, I don't ever bung it until I've got the hind end up. No.
Exactly. Because you're just going to have too much pressure. You're going to end up cutting something and it's not going to be good. So it's,
you're going to wear
you're
going to wear exactly. It's just going to happen. Yeah.
So I'll get that sirloin and even partially down to the short loin scun out to where I can see all the way through, like it's completely off the animal in the back, just being held on by the tail. But and
you're doing like a partial raise at that point. I follow you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's this last one I did, it actually, just because I was running around so much, I actually made the gutting incision while it was still laying down, just because I was like, I don't want to, I've never done this before like this, but I don't care right now. Like, I just need to get this done. We're not going to play it. And what was really nice was I got it scun down to right around the chuck. We got it fully lifted, and I had already done all my pre-work. The esophagus was already out. The bung was loose and in the animal.
When you think ahead of I'm gonna need this to be free, man, it makes your life. But you don't know those things that you need to think ahead of.
God, I'm just doing it now. Like, I'm figuring it out now. And I'm you get
doing
your first full time.
Get a couple hundred animals in, and it all starts to make sense.
Exactly.
And it's like any skill that you do. You may be able to go out and build a porch, but I guarantee you, if you decided to take a summer and go learn to build porches, after your 30th porch, you'd be going, wow, I sure found some ways to make my life easier that I never thought of before. It's kind of the same thing.
No, for sure.
Well, I should mention, while I'm thinking about this, because something you said earlier made me think about it, and I have mentioned it before, but it's worth bearing in mind, especially if there's anybody new listening or anybody on the podcast side hears this. If you are getting into something like this, and we're telling you, reach out, find somebody in your area or whatnot to at least give you some guidance. If you don't know somebody, reach out to one of us. Reach out to somebody in the group. If you are not in the Liberty Meat Chat on Telegram, you're wrong. But no, I mean, but seriously, find it. Send me an email, shoot me a message or whatnot. If you want, I'll spend some time doing some consultation with you. I'll give you my phone number. I'm not going to put it out there public, but I'm sure Kyle will do the same type thing.
I would absolutely do the same.
Point of why I wanted to start up the whole Liberty Meat Solutions thing as a consultant type thing isn't just me. It's I want to help build a network of. I know there's a lot of people like me with my skill set around the country, and I can't be everywhere. But we'd all like to know there's a local guy or somebody that maybe we click with that can at least give us some guidance. Or, you know what, I've got a beef hanging here. I kind of feel uncomfortable about what I got going on. I don't know what the next step is. Pause. Let me send the message to a dude. I'm okay with somebody bothering me because they're in the middle of gutting an animal and they don't want to fuck it up. I'm
yeah.
never going to be mad that somebody reached out. I may not always be available, but I'd like to see a network of people out there who are available. And the more people we get brought into the fold, the more people who do learn, the more we can spread the skill out. And then as people do progress and learn, guess what? They can help other people learn too, because that's
Absolutely.
what we really we need a resurgence in people who are able to do this. Just if you do go out and do it, please don't think you're not going to fuck it up.
Because you will.
You will. And be okay with that.
That's the biggest thing. You're going to fuck it up and
Yep.
just deal with it. Move past it. Like,
Right.
maybe you're not going to get a cut that you wanted because this happened. Okay. It's your first,
Right.
like, it's your first time. It's your third time. It's whatever. You did it.
You're
and it
not
is what
going to
it
cut
is.
the prettiest top sirloins your first time. It's not going to happen.
Not.
But
You might not
that's
know
okay.
where the top sirloins are the first time. You're
Right.
just like,
but you know what? You're probably not going to notice a difference when you cook it. You know?
No.
So, yeah, and it's going to taste that much better because you did it. So,
Exactly.
and you're going to continue to learn. I mean, I look back to the first real, like, decent sized animal that I ever butchered myself was the first deer I ever shot. I had a buddy helping me. I still had no idea what the hell I was doing. I promise you, almost all of that deer got haphazardly deboned with no knowledge of what anything was and cooked as stew. But it was the best tasting deer I've ever fucking had, you know?
Right.
Because it was the first deer I ever shot.
Oh, exactly.
And now I look back and go, man, I had no clue what I was doing. And I did so many things wrong. And there was so much waste on that animal that didn't need to happen. But I had to start somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly. And I learned to slaughter after I had already like been cutting. Like I had, which helped me. Like I will scream that to the cows come home. It absolutely helped me because I already had knife skills. I understood knife maintenance. I like just knew how knives worked. And it's even like my bosses who I was working with, like every now and then they just needed a hand on the kill floor. So I'd jump over and they'd be like, why are you holding your knife like that? I'm like, I don't know, but it's working. Like, cause it's, they didn't understand the overhand grip, like when you're doing anything. They didn't do that.
And that
like,
on the slaughter side has a lot of uses that well, same thing. So for me, I went the opposite way. I had all the knives. I developed the knife skills before I got into cutting, and then I got into cutting before I got into the slaughter side. So I came from the background of I used to manage produce and do stuff like that, and grew up always just kind of being obsessed with knives. Was really heavy into martial arts for a while, and then took up a job helping out with some deer, and then worked my way up to cutting for the case.
Right.
So I went that path, but then when I started doing the slaughter side, they had always been deer processors. They opened up a slaughter floor. Their son had gone to Texas A&M and had been through the program and had learned some of the basics and whatnot, but he wasn't really a butcher. He could kind of get through some of it. And he started off running the slaughter type side, wasn't really into it. I mean, he could do it.
Right.
He's messy, he's sloppy, he doesn't give a fuck, but he can do it. So he trained me initially, and then everything, I took that as a base and then learned how to do it the right way, either from my own research or just whatever. So they'd come out, and I just kind of took over the slaughter side of it. They'd come out and I'd be doing all kinds of stuff like you're talking, that reverse grip, especially when you're working on your offhand side. People just, they don't get that. So they'd start sending everybody to me to train, to learn how to skin and shit, and, make it a little bit butthurt occasionally when they'd come out to help me and I'm running circles around them. But I'm like, well, you do this shit all day, every day. I'm the kind of person that I'm obsessed with when I'm doing something. I'm going to find the best way to do it, and I'm not done until I found the most efficient way to do it.
Right.
So I took that and built the whole program based off of it.
Exactly. And
that's why we did USDA. That's why we went USDA inspected, because they finally felt like they could.
Right.
We didn't have a cradle until we went USDA. 2 years running the kill floor. All of it was no cradle. Didn't have a cradle in the house. Never even knew what a cradle was.
And we need to figure out how to hook a cradle to your Ford Fiesta.
Right. I'm sure I could tow it behind, but I don't want to. But no, we got one in because it was going to be a requirement for doing the full inspected.
Right.
So of course we had to learn to use it, and everybody else hated it. They'd be like, it's so much slower. Well, it's only slow because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So we started doing more of the inspected. I started kind of liking it. I was like, this isn't bad. But it was great. Like, you'd have the non-inspected days. Oh shit. I'd pop a beef, get it rigged up, lay it down in the cradle, roll that, because it was on wheels, roll it to the
nice.
side, kill another beef, hang it up, and I'd start skinning the one hanging while I'd have the kid I was training over there working on the one on the cradle. I'd be like, let's race, see who gets the skin first, you know, and we'd just be back to back all day long. We'd knock out freaking 15 steers in a day, 2 guys.
Yeah.
You know,
I would have a hard time going back to no cradle. I love that thing
it's really
so much.
It's just really not portable. But I'll tell you what, it makes breaking the hocks with a knife makes so much more fucking sense. If you struggle trying to figure out how to do that, man, when it's on their back and those joints relax, it makes perfect fucking sense. They're on their side. I'll fucking fight it.
Good luck. Yeah. Good luck.
But hey, I should mention that, like, we were talking privately the other day about the same thing with the cradle. If y'all aren't aware, a cradle basically is it's usually a set of pipes that basically you have the animal laying on its back while you're doing the skinning. It does make things a little bit easier. It's kind of like a working table. That animal lays on its back, the legs go relaxed. It just makes everything simpler. But one thing I will do when I need to get it on its back to rig it up or do a lot of the same things, I'll get the big, like, heavy duty rubber RV chalk blocks, because they're portable. I can bring them with me. And you just slide them up under the side of that animal on either side. And there's some folks that I've seen them have, like, they have little pipe rigs with like little teeth in the grass that they can just basically do the same thing. And that's great. But like I said, I'm trying to stay as light and portable as possible. I'm also trying to focus on the minimal amount of shit that I need to bring, because I'm trying to help people learn how to do it themselves with what they have on hand. And so if you know, I have to bring it, that's something they need to look at investing at in the future, or something better than that, you know? So if I can help them make do with something that they have now, that's what I'm trying to aim for.
I'll post some pictures in the Telegram group tomorrow. I'll take some pictures of my cradles, because I have one for beef. I got one for pigs. I made it out of like PT posts that's on wheels. And I use that for pigs, deer, sheep, all that. It makes life easier, especially with me doing everything solo. It's like having that is like, it's just extra, and it makes life easy.
Especially if you have one set that's a little bit higher, so it's not so bad on your back, man. It really does help.
Mine's about 16 inches, so it's not super. It's not bad. It's not super short, but it's also not super tall.
If you go much higher than that, though, it gets kind of tipsy. So that's probably a good spot to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one I was working at, I think the low spot on it was like 3 inches off the floor. You know, it was just like, I think
that's rough.
The top of it, the top rail was like maybe 14 inches, and it was on casters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty low.
When I get my slaughter, I don't even know what to call it, slaughter lean-to, whatever. When I get that set up with the engine crane, I'm actually gonna bolt it on post, so it's a little taller, just because I'm 6'4", so bending gets hard.
The head trauma is real.
Yeah, so again, just to make my life easy, because I don't have to move it very far. It's gonna be there.
Right.
And again, that's where I'm talking about infrastructure, where it's like, if you're doing this a lot and you enjoy doing it, put the money and the time into it. Yeah. Like, take your time, do your research.
It is worth it. If
you
are serious about doing it, if you want to do more than a beef a year, if you are looking at doing multiple pigs and you're looking at that sort of stuff, get yourself a good grinder. Have yourself a way to hang it. Have a tractor or a hoist set up. Think really hard about putting in a small walk-in cooler that you can use seasonally when you need to. If you are thinking about doing a beef a year, still think about putting in a walk-in cooler.
Spend the money on the equipment.
And it's cheaper to build a small cool bot than it is to try to get a couple of decent-sized chest freezers and regulate them.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's going to do a better job.
You can pick a cool bot up for $300, and then everything else is just lumber and materials. Like,
if you have some shit laying around already, about $2,000, you could have a walk-in cooler.
Easy. And I ran the cool bot for a long time, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. But
especially if you're not trying to do it on a commercial scale. If you're doing it seasonally, it's perfect.
It's perfect. we were doing a semi-commercial
Yeah.
scale. I was going through, like,
Yeah.
there was
I can
never
see
a
it being a
moment
bit too much.
that yeah, there was never a moment that it wasn't on until the AC died. Like, probably went through 5
Yeah.
ACs in the time we used it. And
Woo!
these were, oh yeah, 25,000 BTU, $700 a piece. Like,
They're the big boys. Yeah.
they're the big boys.
Yeah,
And then
that's rough.
when we went full time, it was like, all right, we're gonna spend the money. Like, we have a full it's not a compressor unit, like a full compressor
Right.
cooling unit. Sorry. But
yeah, full on
works
commercial size
but it was
condenser and
yeah, but it was 10 grand. I spent 10 grand on the thing. Like,
yep.
but it's already paid for itself.
Cheap.
It's paid for
Right.
itself. Like,
Yep.
the level of trust I have in this, I didn't trust that CoolBot to save my life. The anxiety I had, like,
oh yeah, after the second air conditioner goes out, at that point all confidence is shattered.
it's gone.
I get
it's
it.
gone. It's like,
And I wonder
it's
if
working
if it's
now.
a climate type thing, because it's like I know people down here in Texas where it's fucking hot all the time that have 2 CoolBots going, and I think they've had problems with one of them in 5 years.
I think it's absolutely a climate thing, because.
But you would think down here it'd be harder on it, but who knows?
I don't think so at all, because this is what I have thought of it. I can only run that AC to 40 degrees outside.
Right.
Because after that, everything starts to freeze up, everything starts to get wonky, everything's like, so it's, what I also have in there for this time of year, like, God forbid anything ever happened, which actually this year it did. But I have one of those, like, it almost looks like a turbo fan, like what you'd see in like a gymnasium when they clean the floor. I have that on the outside of the building with PVC blowing in that I could hook up to. I haven't figured out how to hook it up to it yet, but hook up to like a thermostat that if it's 20 degrees here, I can turn that on and just blow cold air straight into the building. And I have 2 exhaust pipes on the opposite side that I can be pulling in cold air in. So it was always this gamble of me looking at the weather and looking at the temperatures and going, do I leave the CoolBot on tonight? Do I put the intake fan on? Do I do that? So it's all this constant on and off, freezing, not freezing. Because even though it's not,
that the coils were freezing back up, and then when they actually did need to fire back up, they were still frozen. So they never had that. They never had that background running to actually defrost and thaw. Yeah.
For someone who's doing small scale, the CoolBot, I'll scream from the rooftops, is one of the best things if you're a small farm or whatever that you're trying to do something. It's amazing.
It beats ice chest all day long.
When you told me that that's what you do, I was like, what? That's crazy. Like, I've never heard that.
Oh, that's a thing down here. Yeah. Deer hunters, it's straight to ice. They have no choice.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you got half a hunting season. I mean, it's still 70 degrees when you shoot a deer.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah. It absolutely makes sense. But I'm like, what? Like,
you guys got what? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Again, you talk to guys that hung up north, and they're like, you don't hang them outside from a tree.
Yeah.
You like rotten deer? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we got to get those bitches on ice right away. Like, as soon as you pull that trigger, you're already thinking about getting it on ice.
Oh, it's the biggest thing. But yeah. So
crazy shit. Oh man.
What else?
We're like an hour and a half. I got to get this audio side up at some point. Well, you got any closing important thoughts to throw out there for folks before? I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point here.
Well, anyone who's watching this YouTube video, I apologize for me staring at the screen like for 10 minutes while you were trying to figure out what was going on. Because I'm like, I don't know if I should talk. I don't know if this is recording.
Oh,
I don't know what's going on.
I will probably edit out part of the dead portion where I thought that was interesting. But hey, we made it work. I'm glad you hung in there for it.
No, absolutely. No, my closing thing for that is, ask for help. This is not, I've completely lost all of my machismo. Like, don't worry, I'll build that, or I'll do this, or I'll replumb this. I've lost all of it solely because I do this for a living. And it's like,
Yep.
oh no, that grown man called me to do all of this. Like, ask for help. I'm not saying you need to hire someone to do your animal, but definitely talk to someone about it. This isn't I'm just gonna go do this
help.
because you're gonna think of things that make no sense. That like why would you have ever thought of that you needed to do that? Like the sternum thing. You learned how to do it that way. If someone had no idea to like how to do it that way, or not to break or to break the sternum and trying to pull 4 stomachs and intestines,
super lost in there. Absolutely.
It will completely ruin you for a day of like, what am I doing? It's
for sure.
It's not the big things that are going to be the problem. Like, you can skin it out. I believe in you. You're going to be fine. You can get the legs off. You can get the head off. It is what it is. It's these small little things that you would never think of unless you've
and you won't think of them until you're in that situation doing it. Yep.
Exactly.
And the other thing about that, and that's the ironic part of 2 butchers sitting here talking about it, I'm sure there are a million little things that we could have covered, the little tips we could have given and things like that we don't even think of because it's so second nature to us. It doesn't occur to us that people wouldn't realize that that's something. I can't tell you how many times even having Brian come over and help me out at the shop a couple of times. I was sitting there butterflying up a deer back strap the one day, and he goes, okay, the next time you do that, you need to warn me. And I'm like, what? He goes, I need to video that because that's awesome. I'm like, what? He's not even thinking about, I'm not thinking about the fact that that's a skilled thing there to make a video out of. Because to me, it's like, that's like basic. But most people aren't exposed to that shit all the time. Wouldn't know where to start. They cut the fucking off trying. And nobody anymore. So, but that's the nice thing about the community, about the group, about having things like that going on, because people ask the questions that I don't know to talk about. There are so many things I could share and teach people about that they don't know, that they are unconfident about, but I don't know where to start sometimes, because when you're so into a topic and that's what you do, you don't see it from that outside perspective. You don't see it from the new person's shoes. So, and that helps us learn too. I feel like I learn more teaching people than I have learned ever before, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
It makes me see things I didn't even realize that I'm doing,
Right. Well, my youngest is up, so I got to go put her back to bed.
Perfect timing. So, exactly. All right, we'll drop you off here. I'm going to do my little exit, and we'll get this audio side up. I appreciate you hanging out, Kyle, and we'll chat at you in the group.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, bud. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all hanging out. Again, sorry about the little drop out there. I will try to get that edited out here really quick before I get the audio side up, but be sure to check it out. Once again, if you have a chance, if you happen to use Spotify, if you could pop over and follow Renegade Butcher on Spotify, that would help us out a lot. That's what's helping to keep us monetized right now through Anchor. If you've heard those little ads on the audio side of it. So we need to have at least 100 subscribers over there. So, I mean, maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't. But if you happen to use the platform, a subscribe will help us out a little bit. So thank you for that. Also, be sure to always check out renegadebutcher.com. Check out the Telegram group. If there's something you're looking for, spices, seasonings, advice, anything like that, there's always somebody around. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed the little bit at the beginning with the that new little series on the seasonings. And we'll catch you all later. You guys have a good night and be free.